This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here. Now be sure to watch Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV by subscribing on YouTube and following them on social media for all the latest Leicester City news and information. Come on you foxes!
Strap yourself in because we're set up, switched on and ready to go.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
Good evening, fellow Fox fans. How are we doing? Hope you're well. I'm just being covered there by all the info. There I am. You can see me in my full beauty. What a week. Hey, but let's put that behind us. We've got something to look forward to this weekend. What are you going to enjoy this weekend? Tell you what, enjoy a semi. Why not? I'll tell you what, enjoy it because when you get to my age, that's all you can enjoy. I tell you what, I can't remember the last time I actually got it in the back of the net. So, hey, that's another story. Want to enjoy something else? Enjoy this. Minding my own football business. It's the story of Leicester City Football Club in the 1990s, one of our most successful periods up until recently, when we were taken by then and our first chief executive, Barry Pierpoint, who wrote this book, and we were taken from a private to a public company. There was a lot went on. A lot went on behind the scenes, and I've got to be honest with you, I've read this book. It is really, really good. Well worth it. Barry, great supporter of the channel, and we thank him for that. I've changed my mind about it, I'm not going to lie. But if you do go to, and you want to bargain, go to his website, mindingmyownfootballbusiness.co.uk. Up until the end of April, you can get 30% off. So a good read and a good bargain, all mixed into it there. Well, I'll tell you what, we are on YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV. Please give us a subscribe, guys. We're trying to get those figures up. That would be forever grateful. Facebook, Leicester Till I Die, the group. And obviously Twitter at Leicester TID. And we're going to be talking, like I say, FA Cup semi-final. We lost 3-2. Our opponents in that semi-final, Southampton, lost 3-0 to West Brom. Neither of us going into this on a great run of form, but we will look onto that. Leicester City in the FA Cup. Bit of a always the bridesmaid, never the bride, isn't it? For those of you too young to remember, this is our history.
Shut up and sit down.
Doesn't make good reading, does it? Let's bring my chum in, and he probably doesn't remember any of that at all, if I'm totally honest with you. Hey, he is Leicester Till I Die's answer to Debbie Harry. For those of you that might remember, she was lead singer with a group called Blondie. Talking of Blondies, good evening, Josh.
Massive compliment. I'm a big Debbie Harry fan, mate. So I'll take that.
Yeah. I saw from the hairdo. I tell you what, I thought looking at that hairdo on an old picture of yours, I thought you were a big fan of Kajagoogoo as well.
It was if you know what, if I could still grow the mullet out now, mate, I would. But I think them days are long gone for me, unfortunately.
That was a mullet and a half. I'm going to be honest with you. You were rocking the teenage years when you were about 2 there in that picture, weren't you?
That's it, mate. I've always been a man ahead of my time, mate.
Well, hey, if that's the case, give me the lottery ticket numbers, please. Let's say a few hello and good evenings. Welcome in, Liam. Good evening, mate. Good evening to you, Liam. Thanks for joining us. Phil, I think Liam just beat you to it there. Hi, mate. First on the channel. Apple Tree John. Good. Oh, hello. Hello to you too. How are you doing? And he says a big effort needed from every player. Well, it is. Excited. You've got to be, haven't you, Josh?
Excited and nervous. I think I'd say it's more so the excitement will be there up until probably Saturday evening, and then it's going to be a case of until kickoff. It's the nerves and the anxiety that comes with it. I mean, it's the first time I've ever seen us play an FA Cup semi-final, and for a trophy as big as it is, you know, for a chance to at least get to the final, it's huge, mate. So I think come kickoff on Sunday, I'm going to be a bit of a nervous wreck.
Oh, thanks, mate. You just made me feel very old now. You know, I'm gonna have to get a mute button for you. Like I tell you, I really am. It is. I mean, we came close last year. We got to the quarters, and you know we're going to obviously have a look at our history in the FA Cup. You know, the 60s. It was. We weren't doing too bad in the 60s. Of recent, we've had some embarrassments, but we've got the draw that we wanted, Southampton. But in a way, that could almost be a curse. I mean, you know, if you're watching, let us know. You've got to be happy with the draw, but you've also got to be thinking like, "Oh, this is going to look bad if we lose."
We've said it before, you know, when we did the watch along in the quarter final United game, we were saying hopefully we'll get Southampton, but we've both said I think their fans sort of looked at it and thought, well, hopefully we'll get Leicester. You know, it's a one-off game for us, and like I've said before, and I think you know from their result from last night, their season could just hang on this FA Cup. Really, you know, if they've got as much chance of getting through to the final and potentially winning it as much as we have, you know, in a one-off game, anything can happen. So I think it's worked out well for both teams, really, for us to be playing each other, because I think, really, in reality, it's probably the best way either one of us is going to get through to the final. Really, you know, if we'd have played Man City and they'd have played Chelsea, chances are we'd both probably have been knocked out, and then it's Chelsea-Man City final. So I think it's worked out best for both of us, really.
I mean, you want to win every competition you're in. And as I said to you, when we got knocked out the Europa League by what we thought was a not sort of particularly brilliant Slavia Prague team, but they showed Rangers and Arsenal what they're made of as well. You know, I was sort of saying, well, yeah, okay, we got knocked out. That will be good for us in the league. Will it, if we get knocked out, and I don't want to be, obviously, but if we get knocked out, is it kind of maybe a bit of a silver lining?
I can see where you're coming from, but I genuinely don't think that, to be honest with you, because we make it through on Sunday, and then you know you get through to the final. I know you could sort of say, well, you know, all eyes are on the final then because it's such a massive game, but it's only one more game to add on to what we're already playing. Do you know what I mean? I know it'd be a massive occasion and it's a chance to win silverware, but you'd like to think that the lads are going to be treat every single game now till the end of the season like it's a cup final, because every point matters, don't it? So it's that's my views on it, mate. I think it'd be disappointing to go out now, but like I say every week, mate, as long as we put performance in, if you lose but you played well, you can take it, can't you?
Yes, I mean, we know it's not going to be 9-0, although if you're going to get 9, this is the game to do it in. My worry is, if we do get through to the final, like I say, and I don't think Brendan will allow it, but, I'm worried that players might just take their eye off the ball, no pun intended.
Maybe. I mean, and I suppose that's only human nature, really. At the end of the day, it's a chance to win what's one of the biggest domestic cups anyway in world football, really. The history behind the FA Cup is huge. So, and I think I like what Brendan said after the United game, or he might have said it before actually, when he said, his team talk was to the players, listen, you're literally 2 games away now from making history for this club. So I think he understands that an FA Cup win would be absolutely huge for us, because, like you're saying, with Eclipse at the start, we've been in the final so many times and not won it. So the chance for these players to really grasp that and hopefully come May time, lift that trophy, it'd be absolutely huge for us.
And hopefully by then we might have crowds back in by the time, fully by the time we get to the final.
Fingers crossed. I know. I know this said about letting certain no fans of either team in for the semi-finals, but I think it's just come out today that I know for the Carabao Cup final they're allowing fans in. So you'd like to think for the FA Cup final, obviously it's well after it. There's going to be a certain amount of fans being allowed into the stadium. So fingers crossed. Yeah,
I think they're allowing for the semis some in, but it's just not. It's local people, nurses and doctors and whatever, which is good. Jason, good evening. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Dipak, good evening, Dipak. Thanks for joining us, mate. Nice for you. Nice to see you in here. Button that tongue. I know you got a lot to say. Thankfully, I think if you'd been on the show last night, you might have said it. But no, seriously, Dipak, nice to have you along. Thanks for joining us. I mean, let's have a look at our journey to get this far, because it's been a bit of a mixed one for the two teams. We've obviously had Stoke City away, we had Brentford away, and then we had Brighton and Manchester United. In fairness, not the hardest of journeys up until the Manchester United game, was it, Josh?
It wasn't. I think at the start, when I can remember us doing the pre-match show for the Stoke game, and we both thought at the time, it could be a potential banana skin, really, because I remember they were playing quite well at the time. And then, you go into the Brentford game, and again, you're sort of thinking, well, they're flying high in the Championship, but you'd sort of expect us to win. And then the Brighton game, well, we just sort of, I know we scored last minute. It weren't the greatest of matches to watch on the eye, was it really? Yeah, and then score last minute, and then you come against Man United, you think, well, we could nick it, but we absolutely outplayed them really on that day. So I think I look at both of them run-ins really for us on Southampton, and I think there's a lot of similarities really. They've played a couple of Championship games. They played Arsenal, we played United. That's big games for both of us really. And then they played Wolves and we played Brighton, and there are other games where you think, well, you could go out potentially, but quite similar run-ins really to the semi-final game, I think so. Anyway,
well, if we just have a quick look at Southampton. Shrewsbury Town in the third round. In fairness, Arsenal and Wolves and Bournemouth wasn't a local derby for them down on the south coast here. They've had. I'm not saying it's a harder draw than ours, but a journey. The fact that they got past Arsenal and Wolves, there were two possible ties that they could have struggled on.
Yeah, you could say that, but again, you could say that for our running, I guess. I think, like you say, not so much of the Brentford game, but as I say, they're doing well in the Championship, and I can't remember at the time. I think we played a bit of a weaker side anyway, so we could have gone out there The Brighton game, as I said, I think they've been a bit unlucky this season, Brighton. They've played well in a lot of games and they've just not really got the results. And that were a game that could have gone either way. But I can see where you're coming from. I think, Wolves, they're another team that could turn up on the day and beat anybody, really. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens because it's, like I say, in a one-off game, mate, I suppose the sort of the running that you've had to the semi-finals, if you get beat on Sunday, it's not going to count for anything, is it, unfortunately?
No, I mean, somebody just commented there, if we lose, Stephen Collins it was, if we lose this, the pressure on the team and Rodgers will be immense. I mean, we had a quick chat before we came in, and, if it doesn't go well for us, we could become known as, the new Spurs, because, bottling it 2 seasons running, if we get knocked out and finish 5th or 6th, I wouldn't like to think what the pressure will be.
Yeah, you could say so, but I think that's sort of the success that we are as fans, and we've said it before, fans are fickle, but I suppose that's sort of the success that a lot of fans are sort of expecting us to sort of achieve now. I think last season the way we finished, obviously we're disappointed, but we still finished 5th, and it was a cracking season. Plenty of highlights in there. I'm not don't want to tempt fate or anything. Such as the 9-0 against Southampton was massive for us. I don't really think we're ever going to see that again for many a year now. So there were things like that, and like I said to you before we come on air, Chris, I think if we are, because it has been so tight this season. We've won games, and then you sort of hoping that teams like West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs would drop off behind you. But there's always sort of been at least one team that's closing in on us each week, whether it be West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool. They're coming on strong now. So for me, if we are to miss out this season, I wouldn't feel as disappointed as I did last season, purely for the fact that we had a 12-point gap last year, and unfortunately we couldn't see it out till the end of the season. So. I think it's a bit more exciting this season because I think hopefully the lads will look at it and think, right, we have really, each game is a cup final now. We need to go into each game thinking we need to play as best we can. Hopefully the results will come, and then just pick up from there and just take each game as it comes.
Yeah. I'm hoping to try and get Steve Lynex is trying to get on for us. I think he might have still be just finishing work, but of course he was in the last semi we played in, and this is when you made me feel really old that you don't remember this. 1982, the year of the Falklands War. It was. I can remember being on a train from Leicester to Villa Park because obviously we played at Villa Park, and the Sun headlines that day was "It's War," typical Sun, really, But we went on to lose 2-0. They had our dealers and Villa playing for them, and it was a bit of an atmosphere. We lost 2-0. Of course, it followed the Shrewsbury quarter-final, the 5-2, which was. It was an amazing game, but look at those play. And I'm going to have a bit of a reminiscence because I remember these guys. It's just some of the teams that sort of got me into it. Wallington, John O'Neill, Tommy Williams, who unfortunately I think broke his leg that day. Larry May, Paul Fryer, Eddie Kelly, Andy Peake. Oh wow. Ian Wilson, Gary Lineker, my old schoolmate and bully, Alan Young, of course, Youngie, and Steve Lynex at the bottom there, just under the banner. That was a great team. It was an amazing, amazing atmosphere. The journey coming back on the train wasn't so good, I'm not going to lie, but
I can imagine.
And it makes me realise when I think back to that, what we are missing as fans, because obviously we can't be there.
I think any team, in Southampton, I'm sure they'll be thinking the same, to be honest. But it's sort of sod's law that, the furthest we've got in the FA Cup for years now, and, there's a global pandemic and no fans are allowed in the stadium, and nobody's even been able to go to the games live to the run up to the semi-finals. So you just got to. If we win it, then all that will get forgotten about for me, and I can, live on this for many a year to come. Yes. It's apart from League Two, it's the only English trophy that I've never seen us win in my time supporting Leicester. So it's I'm just going to enjoy it for what I can anyway.
I love asking you these tricky questions, daddy or chips ones, but let's jump forward a few months. Would you look back and go, you sooner win the cup but not be able to go as a fan, or go as a fan to the final and lose the cup?
Win the cup and not go to it, mate. Without question. I mean, it'd be amazing to get to a final and obviously be able to go. For me personally, getting to Leicester games now, for me, because I'm not a season ticket holder, it's a very rare chance that I can actually get to. Obviously, with having kids and stuff. But for me, if you could offer me that now and say, right, you get to the final now, there's no fans in there, but you'll win it, I'd snap that up straight away. For me, it's a no-brainer, because we can look back on it and it's another trophy to add to the cabinet. It's a trophy that we've never won, so it'd just be another piece in the history of the club, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. We've had 7 semi-finals, I do believe, and let's just have a look at bringing these up again. You're much too young to remember any of these, to be honest with you. The Tottenham one there I was just talking about. Liverpool, that the 74, it went to a replay, and that was in the age of Toshak and Keegan up there. Toshak and Keegan used to play for Liverpool, Josh. And,
oh yeah.
Let's go back. I mean, our first ever semi was against Portsmouth. Our second semi-final, when we got to it, was against Portsmouth. Sheffield United, that went to 2 replays. And Leicester, we beat Liverpool in 63. Then we lost them in 74, and we beat West Brom in 69. We went on to lose to Man City. I mean, we played 7. Won 4, lost 3. Let's hope that's not an omen that it's going to balance up at the weekend. We're obviously going to have certain players back that weren't available for the West Ham game. In a way, it's kind of making them, they've had almost like a week to recover.
You could say so, yeah. With what's happened, and as you say, it's been spoke about to death, so I'm not going to delve into it. But yeah, you could sort of treat it as another week off, I guess. Really, it's a bit more rest from, obviously, under the circumstances. Not the best way to go about it, but yeah, it's hopefully, mate. The lads that come back, they're going to be even more so eager now to put a massive shift in for us, and it sort of hopefully gives them a bit of emphasis, sort of, play that, try that bit harder, give that extra 10%, from what's happened anyway. So it's fingers crossed to come back with a good enough attitude anyway to sort of carry us over the line. Fingers crossed.
Andy, I don't like you anymore. I was at the 69 game. I wasn't quite at the 49 game, but get yourself on here. We'll have a look how old you were, mate. I'm joking, Andy. Am I? But the one thing that was me, Josh, is they might be wanting to give that extra 10%, but you can give too much sometimes, can't you? You can be breaking down with the ball, running against the goal. Maddison could think, I've got a shot on here. Vardy's on his left, clear. And he thinks, I'll get this, and I'll sort of, some way to redemption sort of thing. Misses it, and Vardy could have just slotted it in. So sometimes you've got, you can be too keen to do well, if that makes sense.
You're right, and it could go that way, but I'd sort of, in my mindset, I'm sort of hopefully thinking in my head, well, these lads, at the end of the day, they've not only got to show us fans, what they can do and how desperate they are to get back and sort of work their way into the team. I think, like you say, out of the players that obviously were in the headlines recently, I think sort of, obviously Barnes has been injured. Maddison's the only one really that would start for us, really, You could say Perez maybe, but obviously with Nacho with his form, Perez he ain't really going to start for us. So you're sort of hoping that the lads come in and think, right, we need to put a massive effort in, not for just the fans and the club, but for the teammates as well, because they've been let down as well as anybody else, really. So you're sort of hoping that, and again, I think the chance to get to an FA Cup final is going to be massive for most of these players, really, because it's going to be the biggest game that some of them have ever played in. So hopefully that'll be enough to, like I say, just give us that extra 10%, and going forward, maybe sort of gives us a bit more a bit more of a push to make the final.
Yeah. Good evening to Brookline, all the way from Brookline in America there. Thanks for the great news today. Yep. The fact that I'm getting divorced, that's good. That is good news, actually. But no, Brookline won the wooden framed picture of the King Power. So that's winging its way over to America. Apparently, Brookline, it can take up to 6 weeks. So sorry about that, but it is definitely going to be on its way to you soon.
Well done, pal.
And Andy, Albrighton has got to start. I mean, I like Albrighton more when he comes on, to be honest with you, as more like an impact sub. What do you think, Josh?
I was really impressed with him on Sunday, I must admit. When he come on, he was so positive, trying to get. Yeah, he was trying to get the ball forward, trying to give us a bit more emphasis going forward, especially I think his wing play sort of speaks for itself, and his delivery into the box has always been fantastic. For me, I know we've played him at sort of right wing back before, but I think he's good defensively as well as he is attacking. But for me, if he starts, it's got to be on the right side of the midfield, definitely, on the right wing. And, if means Ricardo dropping back into just a right back role, then so be it. Because I think personally, Ricardo, I know, he had a big injury and he's still sort of early in the stages of coming back. He's played a few games for us now, but with Ricardo, I was sort of expecting more as a right wing back from him, purely for the fact that he can bomb up and down all the time. And I don't know, maybe I might be being a bit harsh on him. It's no disrespect to him at all, because for me, he's still one of my favourite players. But I think the only way that would work is, like you say, I think with Albrighton just in front of him. And I think just from Albrighton's performance on Sunday alone, coming on as sub, he deserves a star. I thought he was absolutely superb.
I always worry when he does play that defensive role that he's always got a penalty in him.
Albrighton, yeah. I mean, we know. Yeah, we know he can play. He's very much, again, I think Brendan likes him as well, because he's quite a bit of a utility man, really. You can put him on the left if you need to. And but yeah, I agree. I prefer him a bit more advanced, but we know he can get back and help his fullback out anyway. So, but yeah, I think you're right, mate. I wouldn't, as a right wing back, no, but on the right hand side of the midfield, just in front of Ricardo or whoever plays right back, it's definite for me, mate. Yeah.
Brookline, you may have won a prize in the last show. I don't know about this comment, though. Brendan should discipline any player that back passes to Casper. Tell you what, Brookline, if you did that, we'd have no players left. If you drop them for the game, if you back pass, this would be it. We'd be playing a 1-0-0 formation, wouldn't we? It's a big pitch, though. Obviously, Wembley. Leicester and Southampton, we've both got exactly the same stadiums as it happens. So any advantage from that is going to be gained by both. But do you think that will help our game, having the bigger pitch?
I think it swings around about really for me, mate. I mean, because it's a neutral, it's a neutral venue, and as you say, Wembley is a massive pitch. Even on the telly, you can tell how big it is. Maybe for our sort of possession-based football, I guess you could say so. I think you'd expect us to have a bit more of the ball than Southampton, but it just means they could drop a bit deeper. I'd say it suits both of us, really, because, like you say, before you said it, I was literally going to point out that we play on more or less the same stadium, the same pitch, pretty much the same pitch size and all sorts. So I think it could go either way with that, really. You'd like to sort of, hopefully it'll benefit us a bit more, because we're sort of say a bit more used to the passing game. I've not really watched that much Southampton this season, to be honest, so I can't really say how they play. I know, Hasenhüttl's got on playing good football at least, but hopefully it suits us a bit more because, gives a bit more space. And I think, going back to hopefully Maddison coming into the pitch, hopefully it gives him a bit more, if he is to start anyway, it gives him a bit more space to work something in the middle areas anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook user there said Pratt and Yori need to get working together. I mean, you would think, although they very rarely played together for Belgium, I think either one's off when the other one's on, and vice versa. I like Pratt. I think he was playing well up until his injury. I don't think he particularly did anything wrong in the last game to be taken off. I think it was just we needed to go for the goals. I think if Maddison is going to come back, and let's be honest with you, if Maddison is fit, he's going to start. Unfortunately, I think Pratt is the guy that's going to give way.
I'm with you, mate. I was going to say, again, I'm totally with you on that. I don't think Pratt really did anything wrong on Sunday. It played a bit more advanced in sort of the number 10 role, and I read a lot of people and a lot of comments saying, he didn't really give us anything going forward. But really, I mean, especially in the first half, what did we have going forward anyway? The lack of movement was shocking at times. So I don't think you could put that on Pratt at all, really. He didn't do anything wrong. I don't really think, there weren't really many misplaced passes for him. And I know he played a lot to the side and back, but that's all he could do, really. So I think you're right. I think it'd be unfortunate to miss out on Sunday, but like you say, with Maddison, we know he's fit and we know the reasons why he missed out. So you'd sort of expect him to come straight in on Sunday. And I suppose it makes sense with, the magnitude of the game and how big it is. I'd pick Maddison over Pratt purely for the fact that we know what Maddison can do. But again, I'm with you, mate. I think it'd be unfortunate. It's going to be unfortunate for Pratt, really. But again, he's a good player to bring off the bench if you need him, innit?
Yeah. With Maddison that he can produce that 1 minute and that one shot, that one free. He can literally has that in his locker. Maybe perhaps more of sort of Mr. Slow, not Mr. Slow. That's a bit of a but Mr. Dependable, and where he'll get the job done for you, but he won't take necessarily maybe the risk. I might be wrong with that, but that's what I think. Where Maddison might just have that second of magic. And the game's changed.
I think you're just touching on that before we move on, mate. I think another good point is as well. I mean, we know Pratt's a good player. He divides opinion amongst some of our fans. I'm with you again. I think he's a really good player for us. But with Maddison as well, I think other teams know how good he is. So sometimes he can. Sometimes when he drops deep to get the ball, he can bring 2 or 3 defenders out with him because they know what he's capable of, allowing space for the likes of Vardy to get in behind here, Nacho, whoever we've got playing on the wing, whether it be Albrighton or whoever. Playing Maddison as well gives you that bit of an edge as well. He sacrifices 2 or 3 players from the opposition team, allows space to get in behind. So there's always that to look at as well, I guess.
Yeah. Andy's asking there about Kags. I don't know. He is still he was still in Turkey at the weekend because, of course, he tested positive for COVID. I'm guessing if he flies back into the UK, he's then got to isolate once he's back here as well. So I don't know, to be honest with you. That'll be interesting to see. I don't expect Kags to be back, if I'm totally honest with you. Mad Jason here, and does anyone else like? I always say, or am I the only one? Well, unfortunately, I always is.
I do.
Brad isn't here to comment on that. You're a bit. I'm sort of hot and cold with him, to be honest with you. But you're a fan, and as Brookline says here in response to that, he does like to score a goal against Southampton, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he does. Like I said, I can't imagine him starting, but if he is to come off the bench, hopefully that would be a good omen for us.
If you do start him, though, who do you not play?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I don't expect him to start, but again, he's another player who you could bring off the bench, and he can, on his day, he can make things happen. So fingers crossed. He likes a goal against Southampton. So it'd be nice if that were the case on Sunday. Anyway,
I think you've got Perez has up until the trouble recently, was playing well. But that was in a central role because Maddison wasn't fit. You can't, for me, you can't put Perez on the wing. And I think the problem you've got is, whilst Yuri is fit, Yuri is always going to be a shoe-in for that position. And then you've got three going for that one position, Maddison, Pratt, and Perez. Because you can't not play Vardy and Nacho. There's no way you can drop Nacho. I think he'd be lynched if you drop Nacho. So it's three going for that one position, isn't it?
It is. With the Pratt predicament. It's,
easy for you to say.
It's. I think obviously, he played in that number 10 role on Sunday because I didn't really think Brendan had much of a choice. Apart from obviously Perez weren't available, Maddison's not available, and who else is to play there? Really, he could have played.
Yeah.
He could have played Tavares there, but I think Pratt was the logical choice. But for me, I think Pratt is good. He can play in the number 10 role. He's good in the number 10, but I prefer him playing just in the centre of midfield. He's played in CDM for us before, but I think in that centre, you could say I'd like to see him alongside Yuri at one point. I think that would be good. Just so they're both playing as a pair, and then maybe Maddison playing in the 10 role. But like you say, mate, for me that number 10 role at the minute it's a shootout between Perez and Maddison. Perez sort of shot himself in the foot really with his actions lately because he was playing really well and he put in some cracking performances, and then to do what they've all done, it's bloody daft. But hopefully, like I say, they just come back with the right attitude, and it's nice to know Perez can play it there. Should Maddison get, God forbid, he does get injured again.
Yeah. So looking, like I say, it is our first semi in a long, long time. Not just me, the club as well. If we have a look at our recent history, last year we got to the quarters. Again, we didn't turn up, and that's the worry, obviously, with Leicester. But it's also the same with any team. You don't know what teams, and I'm sure Southampton fans are sat there saying, like, how did we lose this against West Brom? Which Southampton's going to turn up? And we're sat here saying exactly the same thing. But just recently, the year before Chelsea, 18-19, we obviously had the Newport County debacle, courtesy of Mr. Puel. Chelsea before that, then we had Millwall in the 5th, Spurs in the 3rd, Villa in the 5th, Stoke in the 3rd, Huddersfield in the 4th. Chelsea keep a bit. I think we're going to get Chelsea, by the way, if we play in the final, because we seem to be getting them a lot. Although we did get Man City in 2010-11, went to a replay. Cardiff, Palace. We've not got the most exciting of histories, have we? Since we know the sort of 69, the last time we made it.
Yeah, not really. It's a bit underwhelming when you look at it like that. But I'm just looking at that third round Man City game. I can't believe that's 10 years ago. I remember going to the first game before obviously the replay. I remember going to the 2-2 game, and it's crazy. It's madness how time flies when you look at it like that, and it's there in front of you. It makes you think, bloody hell, where's the years gone? Really?
Was that the Sol Bamba game when it was his first game?
Yeah, it was his debut, and I think he scored. He scored with his first touch or something.
Yeah,
from what I can remember.
It was literally in the first 2 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
And then I think, if I remember right, I think Andy King got equalised to make it 2-2, and then obviously went to their place and we got rolled over. But you're right, mate. Up until I'd say the Newport County, that's a bit of a one-off, but it didn't really feel like it at the time, so we played bloody dreadful. But I'd say over the last 4 or 5 years, taking out the Newport County game, we ain't done too bad in the FA Cup. We've had little runs here and there, and like you say, we've reached the quarterfinals now for the last 2 years running. So hopefully it's competition going forward that maybe we can sort of push on and do better in. Hopefully, if we win it this season, then it'd come sooner. It'd come a lot sooner than what we expected anyway.
Just talking about, you mentioned Sol Bamba there, some really good news, because I think he had cancer, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah. and I think he's come through that. So we wish Sol. He wasn't with us that long, but we do wish Sol Bamba all the best for the future.
Yeah, just quickly on that, like you say, I know he weren't with us for many seasons, was he really? No. But he were a bit of a fan's favourite because I think for a centre back he liked to take a few risks, did he? From what I can remember, yeah. But fond memories, and like you say, mate, it's good to hear that he's heading back towards a decent recovery. I know he's back training now anyway, so it's cracking news, really good news, pal. Yeah,
it is good news, and like I say, all the best from Leicester till I die to Sol. I think the thing with as well, that he was played out of position a lot, wasn't he? I think is he a defender and he was played midfield, or he was midfield and he was played as a defender? I don't think, because it was Ericsson, I think, was the manager, wasn't he? Possibly at the time, and I don't think he ever got played in the right position.
He didn't. You know what? Again, it was a bit of a strange one. I think I can remember, his debut against Man City and some of the stuff he were trying. I just thought, bloody hell, for a centre back, that's really risky. That is, and sometimes he'd go on runs and he'd try Cruyff turns and all sorts. And you sort of think a bit like how Cags is now. To be honest with you, sometimes you look at when somebody passes the ball to Cags and you're thinking, God, as much as I love you, you don't have to take some bloody risks at stupid times. And thankfully, it's not really made us pay too much, but it's sort of along them sort of similar lines of players, and that's what I think a lot of players like that adhere to Leicester fans, because obviously every team likes to be entertained, but it's good to have a character like that in your squad anyway. Definitely,
it is. Otherwise, it gets a bit boring. Yeah, it is. Paul, it's gin. Believe you me, after this weekend, I need gin. I need. God, I'm on so many tablets for my illnesses that God knows what I'll be on the ceiling by the end of the show. I'll tell you. Paul also asked this question. I'll answer first, and then you can come in with your answer. And I know I've asked you this recently, so I think I know what your answer might be. But is Paul saying there, would you prefer a top four or an FA Cup final? Do you mean if it's a cup final? That's harder because you're not saying a cup final win. If you're saying would you prefer to win the cup or finish top four, it's the cup every time, because it's harder to get to a cup final. And I think even if you're saying, right, would I prefer a cup final or a top four? I'm going to nail me colours to the mast here, and I'm going to say I'd prefer a cup final, because it's harder to get to a cup final, I think, than it is to get to a top four finish. I mean, if we look here, to get to the semi-final, we've had to play 4 games. Now, that's taking out, obviously, any replay. Well, you don't have replays this season, but if they ever come back, you've only got to play in as a Premier League team 4 games, and you are in the semi-finals. We could have played a couple of League One clubs and a couple of Championship clubs, get into the semis and possibly final. 5 games, to get to the final, 4 to the semi. 5 games to the final. Where to get into the top 4, you've got to play a lot more games, so a lot more can happen. And there's only 2 teams get to the final, 4 teams can get into the top 4. So for me, the cup final's harder, so I would always go on that choice, the cup final. Josh, what about you?
On the opposite end of the spectrum, again, I agree with what you say about if you offer me the FA Cup win and we win the cup and we drop out the top 4, I'd take that. Getting to the final, as much as it's special, for me, I'd go top 4 purely for the fact that it guarantees you Champions League football. I can see where you're coming from, because the FA Cup and trophies like that, it's knockout football, so you've got to be on it every single game. Whereas I suppose in the league, you can have a couple of off games here and there, but there's always a chance to claw it back. But for me, answering his question, if it was to get to the final and we lost, I wouldn't take it. I'd take top 4. But if it was to get to the FA Cup final and win it and drop out the top 4, I'd definitely take the FA Cup trophy.
I mean, let's be honest as well. Let's think. I think it could be an age thing here, because you're young enough that if we don't do it, the FA Cup this season, you've got plenty of years left in you where we could probably come back and do it again. I've not got that many years left in me. I'm on the downward spiral now. I'm kind of looking at plots in the cemetery.
Don't say that.
I'm of an age. I'm of an age. I'm at what I like to call my shrinking stage. I'm 60 now, so I might not get a chance to see us win the FA Cup again, where I have seen us win the Premier League. So I think it could be a little bit of an age thing there as well. Mad Jason and I don't know if you are being mad here, Jason, but you think we'll get both. It'll be a nice double, won't it? Top four and cup final. We touched on earlier, Josh. I was going to call you Jason then. We touched on earlier the form going into this. Neither of us are actually, us or Southampton, are on the best run at the moment. I mean, we're slightly better by 1 point in the last 5 games, but forgetting. I mean, we've lost to Man City, and I think we all said that was pretty much a bit of a free hit, really. But we lost to West Ham. We managed to draw with Burnley. We beat Brighton and Sheffield United, 2 teams you'd expect us to. But, they're not on form either. Yet they beat Burnley, but they've lost to Brighton. They lost to Man City as well. They beat Sheffield United, but then who doesn't? And, of course, I say they lost to West Brom. So there's nothing there, that you would say. And I think we're going into this as favourites, but there's nothing there to say that we should be favourites.
I think, taking into account our position in the league, I agree with you, mate. I think it's a game that could genuinely go either way, purely for the fact that, and I'm repeating myself, but I'll say it again, their whole season's hanging on this, really. On potentially, it could be an FA Cup win for them. You just never know. They're definitely not going down in the Premier League. They're safe in the league. I think they're sort of going to be mid-table there or thereabouts. So the Premier League's sewn up for them, really. They're going to be there next season. So they could literally put all their eggs in one basket here and say, listen, there's a chance for us to go on and win it, really. And like I say, I think they'll be looking to us thinking, well, that's the game we wanted to potentially get to the cup final. For me, it's again, and it's really cliche, but it's whoever wants it more on the day. Hopefully, our history in the FA Cup, and like I say, what Brendan said after the United game about the players making history. Hopefully, that's going to be instilled into their mindset and mentality, and they're going to go into the game on Sunday and thinking, right, well, we can really make a name for ourselves here and write our names in Leicester City history, really. So hopefully, that's going to go for us.
Pressure is on us because of that, and because of last season, and we've got to be careful we don't fall into that Spurs trap of ending up being bottlers. But is the pressure more on Southampton because if we lose on Sunday, we've still got the top 4 to play for? As you've said, the whole of Southampton's season rests on this game. They're out, and then what they're playing for, because they're not going to go down. They're not going to get into a Euro. They're literally playing for position, really. So is it kind of more pressure on them because of that?
To be fair, that's a good point. I didn't really look at it that way. I was just more looking at the fact that they could literally pin everything on this game and then go into the final. So it's an interesting point, that, Chris. Like I said, I never really thought about that before. And I suppose on the flip side of that coin, you look at us thinking, well, if we are to go out, then we've got top 4 to play for. And, obviously, if we win the semi-final and met the final, then we still got top 4 to play for. So I suppose we're in a bit of a rich position to be in, to be honest. I guess when you put it like that, it's sort of it puts it all into perspective for you, I guess.
I think you've got a fan club in the background there that's just going off.
I do apologise. Little's just going in bed.
Do you need to sort anybody out at all? Do you need to go?
No, but my missus is just getting a bottle ready, so it's all sorted.
She's got the sink. You had the sink the other day peeling your potatoes. She's got the sink making the milk. I'm going to ask this because, and I know we're not going, so it doesn't really matter. As a team, we're going to Wembley, not as fans. If we were in a normal season here, and if fans were going, would you want to be going to Wembley for the semi? I mean, I'm old-fashioned. I wouldn't want. I mean, I'd go, obviously. If I could get a ticket, I would definitely go. But I just think it should be for the final. It kind of takes the shine off the final for me.
It does, and for me, I'm totally with you 100% with that. I was more of a fan of when they had sort of the semi-finals at neutral ground, such as I remember the likes of Old Trafford and Villa Park were another one where they used to play the semi-final games, and I think for a trip to Wembley, it should be for a cup final. I think it's nice getting there on the semi-final, but then you sort of, I suppose, you win the semi-final and it's obviously amazing to make the final, but then it does take the shine off it slightly. So I think again, mate, the magic of being, playing at Wembley in a cup final, it's a lot bigger and a lot more historical than getting through to a semi-final and being able to play at Wembley, because it takes that edge off for me. So I agree with you 100% on that, Chris. Yeah. Definitely.
It has to be paid for, unfortunately, Wembley, and that's the sad news. We mentioned this before when we had the chat before we came live, and we've not been out of the top 4 all season, so we obviously aren't playing this weekend in the Premier League. We're therefore playing West Brom next Thursday. Week on Thursday, sorry, and then I think the Palace on the Monday. We could actually find ourselves for the first time this season out of the top 4, and we're the only team that's been in the top 4 since the get-go, right up until now. We could find, without kicking a ball in the Premier League, we could find ourselves out of the top 4 for the first time. But you don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing?
I don't, and a lot of people will probably think I'm bloody mad, but for me, the way I look at it is, and I fully expect us from the group of Premier League games that are happening this weekend, and I fully expect us to be out of the top 4. I think Chelsea are going to win. I can't remember, no, not Chelsea. Sorry, I know they're playing the FA Cup. Liverpool, I think they could sneak in. Although I think I'm not sure how many points they are behind us, but I think there's a good chance we will be outside the top 4 come the end of the weekend. But for me, if we are, and like you just alluded to, saying that I don't think it's a bad thing, I really don't, because I think it's going to hopefully sort of make the players realise, listen, it's still in our hands because we still have the game. We still have a game in hand. So win that, and we're back in the top 4. So hopefully it's going to give us a bit more to. It sounds daft, really, because every game you'd sort of expect your players to want to go in to win, but hopefully it's going to give them that bit more drive to think, right, we win this, we're back in the top 4 regardless. It's down to nobody else. It's just down. It's in our hands. So I don't think it'd be a bad thing at all, mate. No, not at all.
To be honest with you, I'm just checking because I'd forgotten, obviously, not taking into account that Chelsea were in the FA Cup. We might actually end up in 4th place because West Ham would take over us. Liverpool are actually 4 points behind us, so we could drop down to 4th. But then it's still it's still a case of you never know whether it's a good thing to have points. I'm always more points on the board rather than games in hand sort of person.
I am, and I am as well, mate. But I think had we not got the luxury of playing an FA Cup semi-final, and we weren't playing this weekend for whatever reason, and then we'd have a game in hand, I'd be a bit more like, well, but I think with how many games there are left of the season and how important it is to say important to finish top 4. It'd be great if we finished top 4, and I think these players want to play in the Champions League after missing out last season. So hopefully that gives them a bit more of an edge to get the job done this year as well. But I'm with you. I'd sooner have the points on the board, but regardless, we've got the FA Cup semi-final to play, so we're going to have a game in hand either way, really. So you just got, hopefully, they're going to be, just take the chance. Like I say, it's still in our hands, mate. As long as we win games and we keep winning and picking results up, then we're going to be in the top 4 come the end of the season, regardless. So it's all on us, really.
What do you think Brendan's going to go. Put Brendan's hat on for a minute. What do you think he's going to go team-wise and sort of formation?
After Sunday, I wasn't really overjoyed with the back five, I won't lie. I'd like to see us go back to a back four. For me, I'd go with obviously Casper in goal. I'd go for Ricardo, Evans, Fofanas, Castagna, Ndidi, Tielemans, Madison.
Sorry, I was going to say, do you think, though, just on that point, the three at the back, which, it's been three at the back, five in midfield, and the five drop, the three at the back becomes a five if we're defending. We've got some good results with that recently.
We have, but I think, formations like that do work against certain teams, but I don't really see the need to play sort of a back three, a back five against Southampton, really, because I think we're going to see a lot more of the ball than they are. So going forward, you want as many players up the pitch as possible, really, and you sort of get caught out, and then they hit us on the counter, and then you think, well, if Ricardo is to play right wing back, Castagna left wing back, they've got to keep going backwards and forwards. It does work, and I can see where you're coming from. But for me, I'd go back to a back four. I really would. And then you got Madison coming back, and then obviously you can't drop Nacho at the minute. He's on red hot form, and then obviously him and Vardy up top. So if I were Brendan, just pick the best team you can. Don't worry about Thursday. These lads are more than fit enough now to play. They've showed this season already. They can play two games in a game on a week and then a game on a Wednesday or Thursday. So they show they can do it. And if I were Brendan, hopefully he's going to go full strength, and I can't see why he wouldn't.
David there doing an impersonation of me and coming late, and but nice of you to join us, David. Thanks for popping in. You can tell why I'm single now, can't you? Again, Paul could be saying the same thing. It's the slow starts I can't stand. I used to hear that every night. It's painful to watch and costs us a lot of games. I would agree. I would agree with you there. But Brendan does tend to sort of pick his team depending on who we're playing. Before we go, and thanks so much for joining us, Josh. A quick. We don't do a prediction league for the cup, but I'm going to go. I think it's going to be tight. I'm going to go for 2-1. Now, what are you going to go for?
You know what? Up until the last couple of games, I didn't really see us conceding many goals, but I think after Sunday, that sort of optimism of not conceded sort of dwindled on my side of things for how easily we gave West Ham the 3 goals. So I think we'll concede. Is it extra time, or is it straight penalties for this?
To be honest with you, that is a very good question. I would guess it would go to extra time. I can't see them going straight to penalties. And I don't know. I don't think there's not going to be a replay, is there? So I think it would be extra time.
I'm going to go. I think it's going to be. I mean, I'm going to completely sound like I'm contradicting myself here when I give you my score, but I think it's going to be. It's going to be tight, but I think we'll win 3-1.
3-1.
I could see us going maybe 2-0 up. They grab a goal early in the second half. It's tight and cagey, and then we sort of score a third, maybe last 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's happy days from there. Fingers crossed, anyway.
Fingers crossed.
Don't bet on it. I won't bet on it.
David went for 3-0. Paul, thanks for those kind words. We do the best we can. For those of you that were here at the start, you may have heard me mention Debbie Harry and Blondie, and there was a reason for that. Is that our very own Mike Tyson Fury here? You used to have hair, actually, and a couple of you may remember from a few weeks ago that he used to sport. Well, I thought he was a ginger because he had a very, very fine mane of ginger hair. he's trying to convince me that wasn't his real hair, but there is a picture on his Facebook of Josh with a lovely blonde mullet. And I think I say personally for me, I think he was trying to become a member of Kajagoogoo. But for those of you that aren't his friend on Facebook, I thought I've got to share it with you.
I tell you what, it's not far off the actual picture. No. It's not far off, is it? It's business in the front, party in the back. That is, isn't it? Hey.
Hello there. It was. I'm going to say, how old were you in the real picture? Were you like 2 or something like that?
That was my second birthday. That was.
Wow.
I was 2. Yeah, that was back in my innocent days, and then I grew up to be a bit of a pain in the arse. But it's a cracker, isn't it? Hey?
You were 2 with a haircut, like you were 2 going on 24.
Honestly, mate. I can't remember being that age, but I remember my mum saying I was. Believe it or not, I was that pretty as a toddler. People used to think I was a girl. And then I grew up and looked like this. So, you know.
Paul Reynolds says, great pick. Whatever he said, that was him. That was him. David was watching Last of the Summer Wine. I tell you what, David, if you were doing that on the other day instead of watching the West Ham game, I'd have been there with you. It was probably more exciting. I tell you that's the annoying thing, and I hadn't realised until today. Of course, we're playing Sunday evening at 6:15. It's going to clash with Line of Duty. How can they do that to me?
It is, but that's on BBC One, isn't it?
It is, but I can't be watching. I'll be doing the post-match show. I can't be that, and I've got Line of Duty, and I've got to concentrate on Line of Duty.
Hopefully it'll be over and done with no penalties for you then, mate.
Well, I tell you what, I was just about to go, but hey, this guy is always worth staying on for. We're going to welcome ex-Fox Steve Lynex. Steve, good evening.
Hello, mate. I'm sorry I'm late. I got to the motorway again as usual.
No, not a problem at all. You just got in there under the wire. We were just about to go, but we're going to stop for you. Are you okay to stop, Josh?
I am going to have to shoot, mate, unfortunately, so I am sorry.
Okay. Not a problem. Steve has this effect on people. Do you know? Josh, thanks very much, mate. Get that haircut again, and we'll talk soon.
I'll try, pal. See you Sunday, mate. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, Steve. Mate. Look after yourself, pal.
Take care.
It's all right, chaps.
Cheers. Steve, thanks for coming in. I'm so glad you've come in because we brought this up earlier. Of course, semi-final weekend on Sunday. All weekend, obviously, we're playing Sunday. The last time we were in a semi-final, you were actually in that team. Tell us. I mean, it didn't end happily for us, obviously, but it was a great run that we had that year. Tell us what it feels like as a player when you're that close to it.
I was so disappointing. I think going back in my era when the cup meant a lot more to people and to the players because you didn't have the Champions League, you didn't have all these other games that you could be involved in. The FA Cup was the biggie, and to have the great run and the great games beforehand, the Shrewsbury game and that, and on the tide of it. It was such a fantastic feeling. I was one of the lucky ones to be able to get to play in a semi-final.
Yes, yeah. It was a game where everything went wrong for us, didn't we? Their players turned up on the day, and of course Ozzy got his own back for us taking the wee out of him for the Falklands War. But I think it was Tommy Williams, wasn't it? Broke his leg.
He did, yeah. It was that was a sickener.
Yes.
Make it even worse as well. when he got fully fit, his first day back, he broke it again.
Mm.
You know,
Yes.
That was a for us, because he's a great lad. Great lad he is.
Yeah. Rub salt in the wounds a little bit, that didn't it? Literally, you know. But and of course, Ian Wilson got the own goal, wasn't? I think it was Ian, wasn't it? So it just it was, but it was a great atmosphere, you know. And when you woke up that morning, I mean, were you in Leicester? Did you come over on the day? And I know it's only Birmingham, or were you put up in a hotel locally overnight?
No, I was. We were allowed to come over from Birmingham, which was. It was nice in one way, but it was horrible in another way, because the lads were telling me the journey over down the M69 and on the M6, and all the cars, all the flags, all the scarves, and you know, it made it better for them, because as they were travelling, you know, the horns were bipping and everybody was, you know, and it was a better atmosphere for them. So I missed out on that one, because like living over this side and being sick apart. Just going there.
You'd never know from the accent, Steve. And when you walked out, I mean, Villa Park in those days, you know, was a great stadium. No disrespect to it now, but obviously stadiums have moved on since then. But back in the day, you know, it used to host, you know, the semi-finals every year. What was it like when you got to walk out on the pitch beforehand, and obviously all the fans were in? Can you describe that feeling at all?
The feeling's so surreal, to be honest. You know, you got that much adrenaline pumping in your body, and then when you go out there and you hear the roar and you can feel the heat of the crowd coming off, that's the only time really you get to notice it and savour it. Because I think you ask anybody else who just, you know, has been in the same situation in any sport, as soon as the whistle goes, you don't know anybody's there, to be honest, because you're concentrating on the game.
Yeah.
The build-up there and before, it was electrifying. A bit scary, really, because, you know, we didn't really play in front of big crowds like that usually. No. But I think that was one of the part of the things that, you know, was a bit of our downfall as well.
Yeah. Was there sort of a bit of like you say, a bit of fear there, would you say, or not?
I don't think it was fear, because of the run we'd had and the buzz around the place. We felt that, you know, we could go all the way. But it was just a thing when you got on the pitch and things didn't seem to happen. You know, we had a couple of chances, and we felt that, because, you know, we were well in it till half time, and then you know, they seemed to just take more control over it, and, you know, once they scored, you know, it was hard. Then it was, you know, but it was just something you can't. For everything that went right for us against Shrewsbury, everything went wrong. You know?
So somebody up there was getting his own back, wasn't he? You know,
you could say the same now, like with the modern day Leicester, when they played Manchester, everything went right and everything was great. And I'm just hoping now that the opposite that opposite happens to what happened with us, that they go, I'm a Southampton.
I mean, we talked before about the form going into the semi for the two teams, and there's not a lot to choose between us. We both, in the last 5, we've both got a couple of wins. We've got a draw and 2 losses. They've got 3 losses. And taking the fact, because I don't really want to sort of bring it up again, but the troubles obviously that happened for us. We lost at the weekend. They've gone and lost at West Brom. I'm sat there thinking, great, because if they'd beaten West Brom, which, let's be honest with you, you would have thought they would have done, but it's one of those seasons. I'm thinking, like, they've not gone into that with sort of like, well, we've won, Leicester's lost. Does that play on your mind? Do you go in thinking, yeah, we're on a good run here? Or do you look at these sort of cup games and go, they're cup games, they're one-off, and the form goes out the window?
I think that's the way you have to look at it, to be honest. I think that's the FA Cup. That's where a lot of big teams fall against the little teams, because, you know, they think they're already through. I'm just hoping and just saying that if Leicester can perform like they did against Manchester United, to me, they'll win the cup because
Yes.
you could not get a more perfect a game.
No.
And the frustration I'll have, or what I have watching modern football now, is that without changing your players, you change your tactics. So I think by doing that, you're weakening your team because you're not playing to your strengths. And I feel as though, Rodgers has got to say, right, just go for it, lads, and not change tactics to try and stop Southampton playing, because you lose what you're strong at. And I think that's happened quite a few times this year. Instead of changing personnel, you change the system and the tactics. But by doing it, I feel that you're weakening your strengths and you're weakening your chance of winning the game.
I mentioned this with Josh just before you came in, that Rodgers does have a couple of formations that he likes to play, and he does seem to change depending who he's up against. But yeah, my thought is, if you're playing a formation, you should stick to that, because that's what the players know. That's they know if they put the ball out to the right that player B is going to be there, sort of thing. But suddenly changing formation, and it can take sometimes the first half to get your head round the new formation.
That's correct, and I think that's when you have your troubles. We go back to my era. As soon as they knew I'd got the ball, they knew what I was going to do with it. So they made the run for me, which was quite successful. I think the same with the new, the modern day Leicester. Vardy makes his runs. They know how he makes his runs. They play the ball to him. I've watched games. Vardy's been making a few runs and he hasn't got it. And then other times he doesn't make the runs, and you see the hesitation of, what shall I do with it now? What's my next pass? And then you go back to square passing, back passing, and you take out the ability of striking the way Leicester are good at. Yeah.
So going back to sort of the 1982, I say, you had Jock Wallace there. We'd just come off the amazing game against Shrewsbury, which we never stop talking about it, do we? It's the game for most of us from that era. But what did Jock say to you? You said Brendan should just say to his players, go out and enjoy it. What was Jock's instructions to you before you all went out?
Well, to be fair, we didn't, we didn't have the tactics and the things that players have got now. You just try and play to your best ability, and we just had to try and go out and get at Tottenham. But it's hard to say why it didn't happen. It's hard to say, we didn't get the breaks that we should have got. It's just something really that you can't explain. Collectively, that's where it happened, because
Jock, in fairness, probably wasn't known as the greatest tactician, was he? Tactical manager for going, but he had that, that very much sort of up and at them sort of attitude, which in those days, it worked, and we had some great times under him.
That was the game then. If you look back at European football. That's why the English clubs were so strong in Europe, because they played the English style of play. And since we've adapted to try and play like the Europeans, that we struggle. But now with the collective set of players you've got in the English league, where they're nearly all foreign, it's hard to go back, other than when Leicester won the Premier League, of the style of play that they played that season. Because they didn't, European-wise, they just played to the strengths, and the strengths and the momentum got them through the season. And I don't think watching that season they changed the tactics very much from game to game that year, and that's the the success they got. And I think they should right now just go for it.
I brought this up earlier, and I'm going to love talking to you through this. That starting lineup there, that was the team that I I started with the Bloomfield era, but by the time I kind of really understood football and sort of, got into the different players and the names, these were the teams. I mean, Mark Wallington in goal with his bowl patch, John O'Neill, who for ages held the record for the number of international caps as a Leicester player. Tommy Williams, unfortunately, who broke his leg there. Larry May, Paul Fryer, Eddie Kelly, Andy Peake. Great, he came through the ranks. Ian Wilson, my old school buddy Gary Lineker, Alan Young, and of course yourself. It was a good team, wasn't it?
It was a good team, and I think that's when you say that it was a team, because nobody thought themselves of being a great individual. That was one of Jock's strengths. Is when he brought somebody that fitted into his style of play. So there wasn't much disruption into the side, and that's why they were so strong. And we used to wear people down. We never stopped getting at them, and we used to run them to death. And once they started to tire, then that's when we started to get on top.
Yes, yeah, and it was a shame that sort of Jock went back. I never understood a word he said. I've got to be honest with you, but it was a shame when he. No, it's like, how did the players get on with it? Because I mean, there's accents. I mean, obviously you've got a very a broad West Midlands accent there. But there's that. But he had an accent and a half, didn't he? Like you just sort of stood there and looked at him being interviewed after matches and just nodded. How did you, as players, understand what he was trying to say to you?
Well, for the Scottish lads, they were fine.
Yes,
understand, but you had to stand back and think and look at him. You had to try and really lip read him to understand what you were saying. But then, Paul Rams, who was typical Irish fella, God, he was even worse. So it was good to be. It was good days. It was good fun, good banter.
Do you think if we'd got past Tottenham, we'd have gone on to win it that year?
I do believe that, yeah, I really do, because the games that we played weren't easy, but the momentum was carrying us through, and we really did go to Villa Park feeling that we were going to do it, and like I said, we were in there up till half time, and then I'd say their class showed a bit better than ours, and and that was it.
Because of course you're what I like to say your other team, if you like, but West Brom were in the other semi-final against QPR.
That's right, yeah. That was that was a bit of a thing for me to try and get to the final, get them to the final, because I know I've followed them and I was born in West Bromwich, but it's all put one over on them, which was that's what I was looking forward to. Yeah.
I mean, we came up that season. Jock obviously said we're going to win the league, as is Jock's way. Didn't quite work out like that, and we went back down. I mean, had he stayed, do you think there was anything that would have made him stay, or do you think he wanted to go, but he was missing Scotland?
I think so. I think he got to the point where he thought we could go, as far as we could go, and. Scotland was beckoning for him, and I can't say anything bad about him. He was a fantastic guy.
Oh no, it was amazing. I mean, when we got him, this is the guy who at that point he'd taken Rangers to numerous trophies on the trot. Year in year out, he won it with Rangers. And okay, we know. You can say what you want about the Scottish League, but it's still there to be won. And the fact that he did it year in year out and never let Celtic get a sniff. It was almost like when we signed Sven, in later years. It's, my God, how did we get him as the manager? And he took us up. He got us playing some really good, exciting football. And it was a shame things didn't work out. But were you there before he came? You were, I think, weren't you?
No. He was he brought me to Filbert Street. I just got into the Birmingham City team,
right?
And I've been playing well over there. And the manager called me and said that we've had an interest from Leicester, and would you speak to him, and I came over to meet him, and as soon as he started talking, and the passion that he was passing out to the guy, straight away, where do I sign?
Yeah. Or was it a case of you didn't know what you were signing because you couldn't understand him, and you just signed it anyway? Because he was a big bloke, wasn't he?
Oh, he's a massive bloke, and I always remember when I first come, because I played at Shamrock Rovers and we played in the green and white hoops, and
Right.
I made the mistake of wearing that at training one day just to wind you up, and I got a pasty. That's all I can say.
I'm sure you did. Paul Reynolds says, "Hi, Steve, Leicester legend." There, you certainly are. Certainly are. So going back to the Sunday, we got Southampton, and to be honest, we kind of, I suppose, Leicester are going in as favourites, which I always hate. I hate that Leicester are favourites. I always prefer us to be the underdogs. But I guess on paper we are. But it is such a funny season because we said before, which Leicester and which Southampton are going to turn up. Man United, Leicester would be brilliant. The team that played Brighton and really just sneaked through, or West Ham earlier in the season, Fulham. It is a case of, please let the right Leicester turn up, isn't it?
That's the only way I can see Leicester losing, if the doesn't turn up. I think you've got to play to Leicester's strengths. Leicester's got to attack them from the off. I feel if they let Southampton get a foothold, because they can play when they want to play the ball, and they are very dangerous. So if Leicester, like West Brom took the game to them, in midweek, and I feel if you can do that, get 1-2 goals up. That's what you need to do. But I think it'll be dangerous to let Southampton play. Yes,
it's a bit strange because I think everybody was all the conspiracy theorists were going like, Chelsea and Man City will be kept apart, so it's them two in the final. As a player, you sat there, and like you say, we as fans, we were thinking, let's hope we get Southampton. Let's hope we get Southampton. But it's almost a case of if we lose to them, it's like more embarrassing than say losing to Man City or something. But as a player, would you look at the other semi and go like with the Tottenham and thinking like, well, sooner? I mean, I know you'd sooner probably played West Brom, but on a form thing, would you look at the and go, we sooner have that team in the next round, or is it a case of you just play who you get?
To be honest, you keep going back to that era. There wasn't the movies, there wasn't things, so you really didn't get to see as much football as you do now. So there wasn't really that much, hype and pressure coming your way that way. But you always really want to play the stronger teams because, you look back over the FA history, you look back over the league history where you think, it's an easy game today, 3 points or 2 points or a win. And, you get put on your back solid so easy. And once the game starts, it's underway and, you're not scratched like we are. It's very hard to come back.
Yeah. Now, Steve, we don't have, and you're probably going to be quite relieved about it. We don't have a prediction league this week because we only do it for the Premier League. And for those guys that on the website leicesterslidie.com, we have a little mini prediction league. Steve's in it, I'm in it. Steve Walsh and Ian Marshall. And if I just say Steve's not having the best of years, season, shall we say? But you did get a point because you did predict. Although you do tend to predict that we will lose because the fact that you've never got one right all season. So it's reverse psychology, isn't it?
That's my plan now. See, if I say that they're going to win, lose, and I don't want them to do that. So I always try.
But you got a point on Saturday. But I'm going to put you on the spot now. I've gone for a 2-1. I think it will be tight, and I think I can see us conceding. Josh has gone for 3-1. I'm going to ask you now, as an honest one here. People are watching, so this is you can't get away from this. What score are you going to go for this one? It's not in the league, just for a bit of fun.
This one I'm going for 2-0 to Leicester.
2-0. Hey, it would be great, wouldn't it? We'd take a 1-0 coming off Vardy's arse. Let's be honest with you, wouldn't we?
You'd take it coming from anywhere. I tell you, anywhere.
Brilliant.
Michael right down the bottom of the pitch.
Exactly. Steve, thanks so much for I know it's been a bit of a rush and you jumped on here. Thank you so much for that. I've loved to. I was so glad you came on because I so wanted to talk to you about that 1982 game. I remember I was just a young lad when I went to watch that.
I could talk about it till I die. It's a game that for me had everything. It's a game which is nice that people remember so far down the line now, like 39, 40 years ago. And, that's the buzz I get. I've not had much to do with football. I've stayed out the limelight and whatever, but I get people saying to me, they come to me, oh, what about that game, Shrewsbury and that? And but then it brings back all the memories, and, it's one that's there forever.
Yeah, and Steve, we so appreciate you coming on here and sharing those memories and giving us a sensible view of football rather than just a fan's view. Which we're not always sensible, you know what I mean? But Steve, thanks.
I do follow Facebook, and I can see the frustrations of the fans because expectations are really high now. But I do think it's not about individual players, and I don't think it's about. I just think it's, and I'm not going to blame Brendan Rodgers and whatever, but I don't think he should be changing tactics to suit the other teams. I think it should be players. This is how we play. This is how I want to play. Bang, let's get out and do it.
Let them worry about us more than us worry about them, basically, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, it's been, as I say, I love having you on. I love you say it as it is, and like I say, it's you do talk the sense. We us fans, and expectations do get high. The better we do, the better we expect the team to do. That's being a fan. You can sort of take the blue tinted spectacles off and see it from a sensible point of view. Steve, thank you so much for coming on. Take care, mate. Stay safe. Let's hope next week when we talk, we've all sat here with great big huge smiles on our face.
Well, mate, I'll be sitting here with my Leicester shirt on.
Yay! I'll hold you to that. Will it still fit?
The only I ever.
I know the feeling. Brilliant, Steve. Thanks a lot, mate. Take care and stay safe, and we'll hopefully speak next week again.
Yes, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for Steve for coming on there. I tell you what, I'm so glad he did, because I was at that semi-final 1982 and I loved. It's memories. It is memories for me, and it's like they say you should never meet or talk to your heroes. These guys, we all know these players are all heroes to us when they do well, of course. Dipak, thank you very much for your kind words, sir. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to everybody for joining in. It is this, and don't forget, it is this weekend. It is, and please, you can catch us up on YouTube, Leicester Till I Die TV, and please give us a bit of a subscribe, help us with those numbers. We're trying to get that up. We would really appreciate it. And if you know anybody who's on YouTube, well, everybody uses YouTube, don't they? And they haven't subscribed and they're a Leicester fan, give them a poke in the wherevers and get them to do it. And if you want to listen to it back while you're down the pub, get your headphones in and listen to it back. You can listen to the podcast versions of the show on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Addict. It's easy for me to say. And we're also now on Apple Music as well. A bit like Steve Lynex, we're here, we're there, we're everywhere. I'm going to be back on Thursday when I'm going to be talking to a Southampton fan, and we're going to be looking at the game from two fan sides with the opposition view, see what he thinks about drawing Leicester. Does he think the same as us? Like, thank God it was Leicester, basically. Friday, we'll be here with Craig, and we'll be doing a proper preview of the match, looking at it in depth, and Craig will be picking his team, which hopefully this week he won't have any party exclusions to throw a spanner in the works. And then we'll be back on Saturday with the pre and post match show. We're not going to be live during the show. There'll be no things going up on Facebook, no score lines. It's a semi-final. I'm going to sit, I'm going to have a beer. My son's coming round, and we are just going to have a father-son time and watch the game. So we won't be updating Facebook. I guess you understand that. See you Wednesday. What day are we on today? Tuesday. See you Thursday at 7. Thanks so much for joining in, guys. Wouldn't be worth doing if it wasn't for you. You make it with all your comments. Thanks to Steve for coming in. Thanks for Josh. See you on Thursday at 7. Stay safe, guys.
Hello,
Good night.
Matt Elliott here. Be sure to watch Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and follow all their social media platforms for all the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
Some people are on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now.